Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. We haven't done a new segment for a while, and we've had a lot of requests to discuss some of the important BMW news that's been circulating over the last week or so. So firstly, I'm going to touch on the all-wheel drive G80 M3 and G82 M4. We always knew this was coming, and as you guys know, we do have a rear-wheel drive car ourselves, and we knew the all-wheel drive wouldn't be far behind, but we needed to get the rear-wheel drive car so we could start development on the various products that we wanted to make for it. Now, the interesting thing about the all-wheel drive M3 and M4 is that it's only going to cost a couple of £1,000 more, which I'm really surprised about. So I think it's around $4,000 or £3,000 if you're in the UK. And it's only 45 kgs lighter, or £100 lighter if you're in the US. Now, the price differential is very surprising, and so is a weight differential. I really thought it'd be quite a lot heavier. Now, the four-wheel drive system itself is going to be very similar to what we found in the F90 M5 in that it will be very rear biased and the front wheels will only start turning when it loses grip. So it still feels like a rear-wheel drive car. Don't panic guys, it's not going to feel like an Audi. Audis are front-wheel drive by nature, and then when they go four-wheel drive they still very much feel like a front-wheel drive car. So this is going to be different. The F90 M5 was the first four-wheel drive M5, and to be honest with you, I did not miss the full rear wheel drive. And if you wanted to do that, you could push a button and make it fully rear wheel drive. I've tried it once just to see what it's like, and I haven't tried it again because it turns the traction fully off, and in our car that's a bit of a challenge. So the four-wheel drive system itself has three modes. So it's the version I'm talking about where it's rear biased and it has front wheel drive when it needs to. The other one is sport, which is even more rear biased, and then you can switch it off. But the difference between the M3 and M4 four-wheel drive system and the M5 is that when you switch it off, you can still activate the 10-stage traction control. So it means that you still have a safety net and you can still do some drifts, and the car will help you out, and you can use a drift analyzer. So that's going to be a very interesting thing about that four-wheel drive system, to see how it feels. The other thing BMW have said is that they have designed it to be used on track. So they've used some extra cooling to make sure it doesn't overheat, and they've also revised the front geometry on the car to improve the turn-in. Although on the rear-wheel drive car the turn-in is absolutely amazing, they don't want to lose any of that, so they've revised the front geometry to help with the turn-in to make it feel more like the rear-wheel drive version. That car is going to be orderable from I think June or July, and the first deliveries are going to happen in around September, and we are going to place an order for one of those as soon as we can. So 0 to 62 times are being quoted at being 0.4 seconds less than the rear wheel drive. Now the rear wheel drive, as we know, is doing real times of 3.7, so that means although BMW are quoting 3.5 seconds, a low 3-second 0 to 62 miles an hour is on the cards. In the last couple of weeks, we've also seen lots of spy shots from the G87 M2, and we are very excited about that car. We love our F87 M2, and we're really looking forward to seeing what the new one is like. So a lot of people think that this car is going to be based on the current 2 Series. It's not. So I've seen renders where it looks like the 2 Series gone coupe. It's going to be a completely new platform because it's going to be rear-wheel drive. It's going to have the same S58 engine that the current M3 has, which is a very, very decent engine. Very powerful, but it'll probably be restricted in power slightly, especially when they release the car. They may up that for some special models, and we believe it's going to be available in the same auto box and a manual. So there's not going to be a DCT option because there's no DCT for this engine. The promising thing about the spy shots is the arches. They look absolutely wild. It looks very wide, and I think that's the right way to go on this. The F87 was very aggressive. The arches look like an M car, and I think this is going to go in the same way. So from the spy shots, you can see that the roof is black. We're not sure whether that's going to be carbon roof or it's just painted black to disguise it, but I'm pretty sure that this car is going to have a carbon roof from factory. Chassis wise, it's going to follow the same recipe that the M2 did originally, which was basically a shorter wheelbase but with the whole drivetrain from the M3 and M4. So it's going to be the same and as good as the G80 M3 and M4 are at the moment. That means this new car is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm really looking forward to see how it drives. This is probably going to be the last internal combustion engine M car there is, and I think it's going to be a bit of a swan song for BMW. Let's hope that they keep true to their roots, and it's going to be a bit wilder than a normal car. It's probably going to be the last one that's not either fully electric or some kind of hybrid. They have said they want it to be sort of a drift car, something people are going to take to the circuit and track. And in my opinion, the last M2 was the real M3, if that makes sense. As M3s have been getting bigger in generations, the M2 for me was the right size. It's more like an E46 M3, and it had that same kind of spirit. So I'm hoping the G87 M2 follows the same script. So the next car I'm going to talk about is related to the M2, but it's a complete wildcard. I don't know how true this is, but Car Magazine have released some information about something which they're calling the iM2, which is a fully electric M2 that will be based on the G87 M2 we've just talked about. And from the renders you can see this is more like the spy shots that were released of the 2 Series Coupe last year. This is probably going to be fairly accurate as to what the M2 is going to look like, but I think it's going to have slightly wider arches. Now this iM2 project, dubbed Project Katharina apparently, within BMW, is an electric car with 1 gigawatt of power. So apparently it has 4 motors, 1 running each wheel, will have 4-wheel drive, and 1 gigawatt translates into something like 1341 bhp. So you can imagine how fast this thing's going to be. You're talking about 0 to 60 in around 2 seconds with 4-wheel drive. The thing's going to be able to drift like, you know, you'll be rolling at 100 miles an hour, put your foot down. I'll be surprised if it gets any traction. Whether this car is actually going to be released or not, I'm not sure. Apparently it's for BMW's 50th anniversary of M. So it's going to be an introduction or a halo or a concept car that's celebrating M's 50 years, but actually then looking forward to the future in electric cars. And if you remember the M-Town video that was released recently, they actually had an electric charging point with M written on it. So maybe that was like an Easter egg to show you what's to come. But let's not deny the electric change that's happening in the future. If there's going to be M cars, there will be some that are going to have to be hybrid and then eventually fully electric. Otherwise they won't be allowed to be for sale in a lot of countries. And M cars, as much as they're about the engines, they are about the chassis, and if we have to move to electric, let's make them fun to drive at the same time. Sticking to the theme of electric cars, you guys have seen that we bought an i3 and that we did tease a concept last year about what we wanted to do to this car. So currently we have lowered it and we have put a set of 660 design forged wheels on it, which will form the basis of the production wheels for this car if it goes ahead in the future. We have 3D scanned the car, and we're also working on the body kit that we've teased. So we're going to make it look as close to this render as possible. That is the vision I had in my head, and that's the vision I want to see on the i3. So the i3, we've had it for a couple of months now, and I've really enjoyed driving it. Actually, it's actually a lot of fun, more fun than I thought it would be, and it's a perfect city car, and it's going to look great when we give it some more attitude. While we're on, we're going to just talk about what our plans are for our project cars. So currently the F90 M5 has a stock engine and stock turbos in it, and we're going to work on the meth kit and seeing how far we can push on the stock turbos and stock engine before our built engine comes back from RK. So RK Autoworks did see some head lift at around 40 psi. So while we were sleeving the block to make sure that we can go even more power, that was studied as well to make sure that doesn't happen when we try and push even further on the platform. We do have plans to take the car to Santa Pod on stage 2 and stage 2 plus, which is with the meth, to see what times we can put down before then putting the engine back in and going for a slightly larger turbo. The M3 F80 is coming to the end of its life now. I think we're almost done with that project. We've still got 1 or 2 more shows I think we want to attend with that, but in terms of tuning, we've done everything we can. I'm trying to hold out to keep that car until we've got a dyno, so we can basically run the car on the dyno as it is and then keep dynoing it as we demod the car to show you the different levels of tuning that we do on the project. The M2, currently we don't have any plans for that. I've kind of completed that. We did go hybrid turbo, then I went back to stage 2 because I prefer the power delivery and the way it's a bit more playful. I found the hybrid turbo kind of just gave a bit more lag and it took the fun away from the car. What we might do is do a fuel pump on that car and make a stage 2 plus on that just to see what the stock turbo can do. The Mini GP3 is probably not going to be with us for much longer. We've done the suspension development we want to do on that. and I think that's going to go very soon. The G80 M3, we did say we're not going to tune that car. We've done the work with MSS on the suspension, even Chewy nearly finished with the intake. We were planning on taking the car to Super Sprint to do the exhaust development, but COVID has put a dampener on that. But the reason why we don't want to tune that car is that we wanted to wait for the four-wheel drive. So as soon as that comes, that is the car that we will be concentrating on from September onwards to see what we can do with. So that's the news for this week. If you've got any comments, put them below and we'll try our best to answer them for you. Just before I go, I will mention that we are going to attend some events and shows this year. We're planning on having an open day at Evolve when we can, when lockdown rules allow us to do so, because we haven't done one for ages. And we're also going to go to Players Classic. So our plan is to take around 7 of our cars down to Players Classic and have them on display there. So if you guys haven't got tickets, I suggest that you do if you want to see all of our cars together. It's very rare for us to take them together somewhere for logistical reasons, but I'm really looking forward to Players Classic. So hopefully we'll see you guys at some point this summer. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on. If you want to join the conversation, please drop us a comment below and we will do our best to respond to you. And if you're running out of things to watch, why don't you watch one of these two?